question for you. Now, how many of you have children, several children? You love all your children, right? Now, how many of your children are grown and they have children? You love all of your grandchildren, right? All of them, right? You do not hate one of your grandchildren or choose one of your grandchildren over the other one. You love them all, right? So let me share something with you. I want to try to make this as plain and clear as possible. Long time ago, God had a son named Adam. And God gave Adam, created for Adam, from Adam's rib, a wife for Adam. Adam and his wife made a mistake, and that mistake caused them to go from perfection to imperfection. When that happened, they got put out of the garden that they lived in, and it was after that they began to have children. Now, these children are all born in imperfection. Okay? They're all born in imperfection. So he has the first son, Cain. Cain was a farmer. He took care of plants in the garden. But there was another son named Abel, and Abel took care of sheep. Now, Abel, and they decided on this one particular day they were going to give an offering to God. And Abel, his offering was accepted by God. Cain was jealous. Cain ended up going to kill his brother. That's what he did. He killed his brother. So, that was a trying time. That was a very upsetting time for this family, this first family. It was upsetting. They had to deal with that. Adam's wife had another child, and she named him Seth. Now, what she said when she had this other child was, she said that God had replaced the seed that was lost. Because when Cain did what he did, not only did she lose one son, she lost two sons. And she lost two sons because one was dead and one got banished by God. One got banished by God. So she lost two sons. And so when she had the third son, Seth, she felt like God blessed her with another seed. Now, why would she call this third son a seed? Well, you got to remember what happened when her and her husband, Eve and her husband Adam, when they did the mistake that caused them to get put out of the garden. The one responsible for that mistake, Satan, the original serpent, devil, he was cursed. And that curse is found in Genesis chapter 3, verse number 15. And in that curse, basically, God was telling the serpent that there would be enmity between him and the woman, and his children and her children, and that he would crush her seed in the heel, and her seed would crush him in the head. I'm paraphrasing. I'm trying to pull it up. Like, I don't feel like getting up to go over there and grab my Bible and read it to you. And I'm trying to pull this Bible Gateway up so I can read to you the actual thing that was said. Oh, it's coming up now. So I can read to you what actually was said. But Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, that is the core verse for the entire Bible. The core verse for the entire Bible. Now, as you read through the Bible, what you'll find is God had sons. He had other sons. The angels will call it sons. And he had sons in heaven. But Adam was his son on earth. He was the first of his sons on earth. And Adam made that mistake. Now, so Adam has children. Adam's God's son. God loved his son. He loved his son. So even when he made the mistake that he did, what God did was God then clothed him. He clothed him because they were initially naked. Let's see. They were initially naked. Okay, so this is what God said to the serpent. He said, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring, your children, your offspring and hers. He will crush you in your head, and you will strike his heel." So, and this was the New International Version. Let's see how the King James reads it. That's my computer, y'all, doing all that stuff. Let's see how here's the King James Version. Okay, here we go. King James Version. "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, thou shalt bruise his heel." So the entire Bible is based on the path of this seed. Now, the first translation that I read was the NIV, and so it said offspring or children. This seed was the children. So there has been this struggle that has been going on for a long time between the serpent's offspring and the offspring of the woman, or the offspring of Adam and Eve. So there's another child. They had another child. They had a child named Seth, but that wasn't the only child. They didn't just have 3 sons. They had a lot of children, but the Bible does not mention any of the other children, unless for whatever reason these children had something specific to do or some type of specific interaction. They don't mention the other children. So we learn about them, like in the beginning we learn about Seth, and we learn a little bit about Cain. So here's the other thing. We follow the path of Shem, and that takes us to Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. Okay, so with Noah, we know the flood happened. Everybody was destroyed off the face of the earth except for Noah and his family, his small family. Now, Noah had brothers and sisters. Y'all, there was other children. Noah only had 3 sons. So where you think the boys got their wives from? Okay, so, and I mentioned that to say this. With everybody destroyed off the face of the earth. And now we got Noah, who is starting everything. Noah, the son of Seth, the son of Adam, because we're going to narrow this stuff down. Everybody that's on the face of this earth today are children of Noah's kids, of one of Noah's kids, one of Noah's boys. Shem, Ham, or Japheth. So, again, let me pause this and let me come back with this second part to bring it up to date. Okay, so here's video number 2, and the reason, let me share this real quick too. One of the reasons why you'll see me every now and then when I'm doing videos and I would pause the video and come back is because of the time frame. If I am, most of the time I'm not doing lives, most of the time I'm just videotaping from my phone, and Facebook only allows a certain amount of time space. And so if I see it's getting longer, getting ready to go over that time space, and I don't feel like doing a YouTube, then I just pause the videos. Okay, so going back to this. So Seth and Shem, we're down at Noah's kids now. Noah has 3 boys, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They have wives. So we're following the path again. Still, none of that has changed. We're following the path of this seed, this seed, this promised seed that would have been a retribution for what Satan did to Adam and Eve, the seed that was going to bruise this serpent in the head. That is the path that we're following with God's word. And so that's why it is certain or specific family lines that are followed. It doesn't mean that God hates these other children. These are his grandchildren. These are his children. This is Adam, his son that God created on the earth. For God so loved the world. Why does God love the world? Because we're all his children. We are all his children. So he follows this path. Let me put it like this. We next see the path of the seed, or the mention of the seed, when it comes to Shem's children. He had a son named Arpachshad, and on down until you get to Abraham. And let me mention this real quick about Canaan, the son of Ham, and what the big issue was with these Canaanites. I know when I first started saying this, I had not heard nobody speaking of this. And so I went to go look it up today, because I was going to go and grab some scripture verses that you can look up as proof. But like I said, people are beginning to speak this now. They're beginning to understand this now, of which I am grateful. So all you got to do is go Google it. So here's the deal. Ham had sex with his mama. Okay, Noah, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm looking at the time and I'm kind of tired. So Noah, he got drunk and he wasn't paying no attention. And when the scriptures say that Ham saw his father's nakedness, he wasn't looking at his own dad. Why would you curse? Why as a grandparent, why would you curse your grandchild because your son saw you naked? Like, that's stupid. That's stupid. But the more that you really look and dig and do your research in this study, and look at what other scriptures in God's word say, what you will find is that Ham actually had sex with his mama, and she got pregnant and had Canaan. And when Ham came to when Noah came to his senses and realized what happened, he did not curse his own son. He cursed this little boy. He said, "Curse be Canaan among all of them. Curse be Canaan," because he's a child born of incest. Curse be Canaan. And when you first begin reading in Genesis, I think it's chapter it wouldn't be chapter 6. I think it's, what chapter is it? Like, it wouldn't be 6. I think it would be like chapter 9. I think it's in chapter 9. But when you begin reading in Genesis, what you'll see is when it lists the children of Noah, it also lists Canaan. Of all the children, now, Ham is the youngest. He is the youngest. But when it lists the children of Noah, so it's Genesis chapter 9, verse number 18. It says, "And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth." And then it says something weird. It says, "And Ham is the father of Canaan." So he makes it known, I'm not the father of Canaan. Ham is the father of Canaan. And like, of all the children, why isolate Canaan out of all these children that all these boys had? So that was what was going on with Canaan. And when you try to claim the Canaanites, and you want to identify yourself with the Canaanites, because of how rejected they were in the Bible, would just understand that the reason why they were rejected was because they were children born out of incest. Ham slept with his mama and she gave birth to Canaan. Moving forward. And if you and that will probably help you understand why the Israelites fought Canaan so much. This child and this seed and this attitude and this behavior, this ancestral behavior was rejected. It was rejected. It was frowned upon. It was rejected. So the seed though, because we don't need to really worry about any of that and all that. What we trying to find is this seed of this seed that's of the woman that is going to crush the head of this serpent that caused all this problem to begin with. We could have been born perfect, you know. We could have been born perfect. We could have been born and not had to deal with no type of sicknesses and no type of illnesses, because all of that came into play because of sin. Sickness came in the door on top of sin because of what Adam and Eve did. So, like, can you imagine living and not being sick none whatsoever? Like, for real. So, Shem, son of Noah, is the one that it was chosen. It was his lineage that was chosen. And so that's the lineage that you will follow through the Bible. Then you get to Abraham. So Abraham is chosen out of this family that came from the Chaldeans. They were Chaldean. They were from of the Chaldeans. Abraham was a Chaldean. Okay, let's keep that clear while we out here trying to say who is and who is not chosen, you know, and we the children of blah blah blah, and we Israelites and we're of Abraham. See, what Abraham was a Chaldean. Okay, so to deny everybody else is to deny that family too. That family, Abraham was a Chaldean. So they moved because God spoke to Abraham's dad. And he began the journey with his family. Abraham's daddy began a journey with his family to move to this promised land. But his son, okay, on that journey, and his daddy got stuck. So Abraham began to hear God's voice, and Abraham picked up and continued the journey. And he continued on, and he followed. God told him, and this is Genesis chapter 12. He said, leave your family and go, and I will show you. So because Abraham believed God, that's what he did. That's what he did. Now, Abraham had several sons, okay? Several sons Abraham had. He didn't just have Ishmael and Isaac. He had other sons after Isaac. But Isaac was the one that was chosen, so we followed that path. Isaac had twin sons. Esau, who was called an Edomite because, well, he was called an Edomite, which has to do with the land that he lived in. He lived and settled down in this land of Edom, and he had two Canaanite wives. And you know how everybody felt about the Canaanites, but they were still family. But you know how everybody felt about the Canaanites. But he had two Canaanite wives. So, which were, again, Canaan was a product of incest. I gotta pause this. That's because I get too detailed in these stories. Okay, so I'm going to do it, and this should be the last one. This video coming up should be the last one. Okay, this is video three, and this video should be the last one. Okay, so I left off with Isaac having twin boys, Esau and Jacob. Esau married two Canaanites, and then he married a Canaanite woman, not two Canaanite women. He married a Canaanite woman, and then he married one of Ishmael's kids. Trying to because he realized how his mama felt and his daddy felt about the Canaanite wife. But yeah, it was what it was. They sent Jacob away, and Jacob married from within the family, from the mama's side of the family. But now listen, Jacob's wife, let's get this clear. Jacob's wife was not an Israelite. Okay, while we want to talk and say how the Israelites can only marry Israelites, however, Jacob's wife was not an Israelite. Jacob's wife, Jacob had to go back to, as a matter of fact, not only was Jacob's wife not an Israelite, neither was his mama an Israelite, okay? And neither was Isaac an Israelite. Isaac was not an Israelite, and Abraham was not an Israelite. So when you get to condemning people and family members and people because of their skin color, this is an organ. This is an organ. It is one of the largest organs of our body. This is an organ. And when you get to condemning people because of their skin, but you wanted to use like biblical scriptures and say, well, you know, or you want to say, you know, well, you're not an Israelite, and yeah, so you're not chosen, or however, you need to understand really what the whole significance behind God choosing the Israelites was. So let me wrap this up before I end up with a video number 4. So Jacob is chosen. Now Jacob, who received a promise from God, he goes out, he gets his wife, he ends up with 2 wives and 2 concubines. Through the 2 wives and the 2 concubines, it wasn't until, through them, they had 12 children. They had 12 children, 12 sons and a daughter, 12 sons and a daughter. They had 13 children total, 12 sons and a daughter. It was on the way back, when Jacob was taking his family and going back home, that he grappled with an angel. He was scared of his brother because he knew what he did to his brother, and he thought his brother might have still been holding a grudge. He was scared of his brother. He grappled with an angel all night long. He had sent the family on ahead of him, but he was fighting, you know, and he's like, I'm not going to let you go till you bless me. You know, yeah. And the angel changed Jacob's name to Israel. And he did that because he grappled all night long and he blessed him. And so the children, instead of being called Jacobites, because they were the children of Jacob, Jacobites, they were called Israelites. All 12 of these sons. Now, here's the deal. The entire 12, when they did what they did, ended up in slavery. When they came out, when Moses, fast forward, Moses brings them out of slavery, all of them, because of the promise that God made with them, all of them now end up at this mountain where God is speaking to them directly. They were supposed to be a nation. All 12 tribes were supposed to be a nation, a kingdom of priests. All of them, not one, not Levi, but all 12. And they were supposed to represent the Most High God Almighty on this earth to all the other nations, to all the other children. Again, everybody on this earth is related. This one specific nation that God chose, because he's sending his seed through that line. Jesus Christ was coming through that lineage. This one particular nation was supposed to represent God to all the nations, because God wanted to redeem all of us back to him. But let me tell you what happened. They started acting like the nations around them. They started celebrating all this stuff, and God told them, he gave them his command. He said, you'd have no other God before me. He gave them specific instructions, and they could not follow him. So it got narrowed down when they did that calf worship, while Moses was getting the laws and writing everything down for them to follow, so that they can be a nation of priests. When they did that, then what happened was it got narrowed down to one tribe out of everybody, which is the Levites. So now you got people walking around here and they're like, I'm a Levite. You know, I'm a Levite. This how we do, y'all. You know, first we got this group that's walking around here. I'm an Israelite. I'm an Israelite. Okay, so now we got people walking around here. I'm a Levite. I'm a Levite. Well, let me tell y'all about these Levites. The Levites lost the priesthood. They lost it when God killed Eli, because one of the things that God had told Moses and Aaron, because they kept coming up against Moses and Aaron, and God had to make it clear, the Levites are who I am choosing to be the priests, who to work for me and be the priests. This is what God says. So God told Moses and Aaron to protect and correct the priesthood. Nobody was supposed to step to them at all. But here's what happened to the Levites. So this was during the time, if you go to the book of 1 Samuel, when Samuel was born to an Ephraimite, and she had promised God, if you give me a son, because she was upset about his other wife, if you give me a son, I'll give him back to you. And that was Samuel. And so she raised him until she could wean him, and then she brought him, and he grew up in the house of Eli. Here's the deal. He was from the tribe of Ephraim. He was not a Levite. He was from the tribe of Ephraim. So at this point in time, God is not speaking to nobody, because they are all corrupt. And Eli, who had gotten old, he allowed his sons to be corrupt. He allowed his sons to disrespect God. He allowed his sons to mishandle everything. He did not correct them. And so what God did was God had a man of God, a prophet, come in and speak to Eli and let Eli know, I see everything that's going on. I see what your children doing. You need to correct them, because if you don't, they're gonna lose their lives. And Eli is like, yada yada. Eli didn't say it like that, but he didn't listen. And so when Samuel now comes under the roof, all of a sudden this young boy Samuel, he's sleeping. He hears somebody call his name, so he go run to Eli, and it looks like I'm gonna have a fourth video. But anyway, he goes and runs to Eli. And Eli's like, I didn't call you. Go back to sleep. And then he heard the voice again, and he runs to Eli like, surely you called me. Here I am, your servant. And Eli realized, God must be speaking to him. He said, next time you hear his voice, say, your servant is listening. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And so Samuel heard the voice again. He said, like Eli told him, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. And God spoke to him. And God spoke to Samuel the exact same thing that he had told the man of God to speak to Samuel. And so at that point, at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every matter be firmly established. At that point, Eli was told God is getting ready to kill his sons, but he didn't just kill his sons. But Eli, at that point, with the second one, he was also told that he was in trouble too. And so right behind that, Eli died. Well, his 2 sons die in battle. Eli dies, and the baby that one of the sons' wives was having, the baby died too, and the wife died, I think. So he completely wiped out this lineage. And at this point in time, Samuel is now the one who is carrying this mantle of acting as a priest. But if you remember back with Moses, wasn't nobody who was not a Levite supposed to touch this mantle. So this tribe of Ephraim, through Samuel only, the tribe of Ephraim carries and holds, is able to contain this mantle of priesthood until the king, the person who is supposed to get it, is chosen. At this time, the people said, video for it coming up. Okay, so that's what I get trying to tell this whole Bible story in quick video. So here's video number 4. Four. So Samuel, we're at Samuel. Samuel is getting older. He's the one that's doing the offerings and everything for the people. God has allowed him to do this. Even though he was not a Levite, God allowed him to do this. The Levites were by this point fired. Okay. Fired by God. They got so Ephraim, this tribe, or this young man from the tribe of Ephraim is doing it. So he's getting older. He has sons, and the people say to Samuel, we don't want your sons to be priests over us. Your sons is just as corrupt as Eli's sons was, which they were. He said, we don't want your sons to be priests over us. He said, do this, give us a king. Samuel is totally upset. Like, nah, I don't want to do this. This ain't right. God is our king. This is not right. And so he was upset about it, but God told him, he said, listen to them. Listen to him. Get them a king. But he said this also let them know what to expect and what's going to happen when they have a king over them. And so everything that we have had going on in our world, from the kings to the presidents, because quiet as kept, one of the things that we don't know or understand for real, is that the reason that we were raised and born under a president instead of a king is because back in the day, our family, our lineage back in the day, had a king, and they didn't like the king, so they left from where the king was and came here to the to the Americas, which is what this land is called. And they decided they wasn't going to deal with no kings. And ain't no kings, it's we the people. Okay, this is Cliff Note version now, y'all. This is Cliff Note version. So Samuel, the people choose Saul to be a king. And Saul messed up from the very beginning. They chose Saul, though, because he was tall. They chose Saul because he was handsome. So they say. They chose Saul. I ain't seen Saul, so I can't say he was handsome. I haven't seen him, but that's what they said. They chose Saul because he was like, he could fight. So they thought he could fight, so they chose him, to be king over them. And he messed up because the people was controlling him. Basically, Saul did some stuff that he had no business doing because he was afraid of the people. So he did offerings, and God said obedience is better than the sacrifice. And so he was waiting and looking for somebody who would then become king. Saul messed up a few times, and it was a wrap for God. So God chose the next king, and that king he chose was David. And David had been and acted as a man after God's own heart for a long time. So these Israelites, but David was of the tribe of Judah. Now, when David messed up and went and killed Uriah, David did some dirt too. He did a lot of stuff too. But one of the things about David is he had a repentant heart. But the next king that was chose after David was Solomon, the son of David, the son of David through Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah. Now David had a whole bunch of wives. He had a lot of wives. I think he had like about 70. I don't know for a fact, but he had a lot of wives. Solomon was warned by David and by God to not get all these wives. And of course he didn't listen. And as the story goes, these wives caused him to begin serving other gods. And that angered God. But God did not kill Solomon because of David. So God says, well, I'm not going to take these tribes, these 12 tribes from you, but I'm going to take them from your son. I'm going to do that. So when Solomon died and Rehoboam became king, God stripped Rehoboam of all 12 tribes. And so of all 12 tribes. So 10 of those tribes went to or were temporary because he was simply disciplining him. Have you ever disciplined a child or a grandchild and taken something that they liked away from them, until they understood? However, what the 10 tribes of Israel were taken from Rehoboam, and Jeroboam was placed over them, but it was only supposed to be temporary. And Judah, the tribe of Judah, stayed with Rehoboam because that's who they were. They were of the tribe of Judah. And Benjamin also stayed with the tribe of Judah. So you have your 10 tribe, which is still called Israel, and then you got the 2 tribe, which is called Judah. Well, the 10 tribe got in trouble and stayed in trouble, and God rejected them. The Israelites, he rejected them. While y'all again talking about different nations and Edomites and all this other stuff, and who's rejected and who God hates. God don't hate his children. He hates the sin of the children, but he does not hate his children. He's a merciful God, and he will never ever hate one of us because of the color of our organ. He created us. He created us. Just like there are different colors of flowers, and God created the flowers like that to producing different in a wide variety of color. We produce in a wide variety of color too. God did that. He don't hate his own creation. So, but he hates the sin. He hates the sin. So the 10 tribe, they done got in trouble. The rest of the Bible mainly deals with Jews and Judah. When you start getting into like when you get to Matthew, at that point the seed, the promised seed, has arrived, which is Jesus. So from the New Testament all the way to the end, from the New Testament all the way to Romans, you are, and I'm saying Romans for a reason, but from the New Testament all the way to Romans, you're dealing basically with the Jews, with the tribe of Judah, the Jews, because this is the lineage that Jesus was in. It wasn't the rest of them. It wasn't the other Israelites. It was the Jews, not the Israelites. So again, if you want to start saying that God rejected all them other nations and he only dealt with the Israelites, well, God rejected Israel too, and he only dealt with the Jews, if you want to take it there. So when you get to Acts and you see Paul, who was Jewish, but you see him and you see that Damascus Road experience that he had where Jesus called him to be an apostle, not to the Jews. The other 11 had that. He called him to be an apostle to the Gentiles. And at this point, Jesus is reaching out to the other tribes. But he said that to his own apostles. He said that I have a little flock, but there are other sheep that must come in also. So yeah, we need to not forget that God so loved the world. He loved all his children. And to try to classify any of us by race or by tribes, you're not an Israelite, so you're not, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's altogether wrong, because he loved the world. And if you're going to do that, then what you also need to do is choose one of your own children or one of your own grandchildren and disregard the rest. You wouldn't do it. Nobody would. Nobody that I know would do that. We wouldn't even do it in our families. But how would we want it to be done in another family? Or why would we want it to be done in another family? That's not how God operates. And that's very incorrect for anybody, because they have issues with the skin color of another person. Don't put God in on that. Don't put God in on that. Don't make this into something that God did and however, and so a person is wrong. Now you have a personal issue with somebody's skin color for whatever personal reasons you have, and that's not God. He chose the Israelites as a whole to be a nation of priests, but they failed. He chose one lineage, Levi, and Levi failed. That priesthood was then shifted over to the tribe of Judah, which is why Jesus is called a king and a priest in the order of Melchizedek. That's why that was. But the whole purpose of it was to redeem the whole world back to him, because he loved us all. But what happens is we, the children, can't seem to do what we're supposed to do. So he tells us that we judge on the inside and we don't judge the outside. We don't judge the world, but we judge on the inside. We judge amongst ourselves, because we got to make sure we right. He starts at his house first. All right. Cliff notes, and I'm ending. Bye. Okay, so before I post any videos, I always listen to my stuff. I caught the error that I said where I spoke of Seth when I should have said, I spoke of Shem when I should have said Seth. So I caught that. Adam's child was Seth. And Seth is like the great granddaddy of Noah. So I caught that. Noah's children is Shem, Ham, and Japheth. But what's causing me to do this here video is because I just want to clarify some things too. Abraham married his niece. Okay, he was a Chaldean. He married his niece. You know what? I should have went to look to see who the Chaldeans come from, what their background is, but I'm not about to do it because, I don't feel like, but he married his niece, okay, Chaldean. Isaac's wife was a cousin. Isaac got his wife from his mama's, let's see, Abraham's wife's name was Sarah. So his daddy, it was his daddy's side. Isaac's wife came from his daddy's side. And one of their children. It was it, let's see. Isaac's wife, Rebecca, came from his daddy's side of the family. His dad's Nahor. I mean not Nahor, it was Abraham, Laban, and Nahor. And Nahor had, okay, I ain't even gonna try to sit here and stretch my brain at this moment because normally I know this stuff. But anyway, Isaac's wife was not an Israelite. Just so y'all know. First of all, Isaac's mama was not an Israelite, and neither was Abraham. Okay, we just gonna make it plain. And the reason why the Israelites was at first called Hebrews, or somehow, because sometimes they would call Hebrews or however, but the reason with that is because Sarah lived in Hebron. So because she lived in Hebron, they were called Hebrews. So when Isaac now has children, his children, because the children's daddy got their name changed. Yeah. Anyway, Laban, who is Israel's father-in-law or Jacob's father-in-law, Laban was not an Israelite. Okay? Laban was not an Israelite. All right? Now these brothers, they're getting their wives from amongst each other, but again, y'all, come on now with identifying certain nations and not totally understand, and then trying to say something is wrong or whatever, and not totally understanding what this whole thing is. We are all related. And I really cannot wait till God clear all this up when he steps in and just clear all this up. Like enough is enough on God's end, because right now we're hurting one another with these attitudes towards one another based on color and where somebody live at. What if people treated me like this? I'm in Florida, but I'm not a Floridian. I'm a Chicagoan. That's where I was born. I was born in Chicago, Illinois. I'm not a Floridian. I'm a Chicagoan who lives in Florida and loves it, by the way. So, but what if the Floridians treated me like because I'm not born and raised in this city, Or what about the fact that my grandmother, who ended up living in Illinois, putting roots down in Illinois, where my mom was born in Illinois. She wasn't from Illinois. She was from Mississippi. Now, I can't go to Mississippi talking about I'm Mississippian because I never lived in Mississippi. I don't know nothing about Bolivar, Mississippi. I'm just saying we need to stop all that. We really need to stop all of that. But here's something else that I want to definitely put out there, because to say to a person that God hates them, is so incorrect, because they're not an Israelite, is so incorrect. Because if that was the case, and as precious as God's only begotten son that he sent through, he specifically allowed people to come together for this child. Let me just say it like this. Rahab was from Jericho. She was not an Israelite, and she was a prostitute, but she was allowed to be in that lineage so that Jesus could be born. But not just Rahab. Ruth was a Moabitess. She was not She was not an Israelite. She was a Moabitess. And she was even closer in lineage. She's the one with Boaz who had Obed. They had a son named Obed. That son had a son named Jesse. That son had David. So y'all, to tell a person or to say to a person, and it wasn't something that was said to me, but my attention was brought to it. And I got like really annoyed behind it. I did, y'all. I got like super annoyed behind it, and I still don't understand why I got super annoyed behind it, or still feel some type of annoyance behind it. And maybe it was because maybe I needed to do these videos, and maybe that was the fire that was needed for me to do videos like this, to kind of like break it down. Again, it is Cliff Note versions. The Bible is way more detailed. So I would suggest, go just read the Bible. But when we're reading the Bible, we truly need to understand what we're looking at. We need to understand the whole purpose of the Israelites, and the whole purpose or the focus on the Israelites, why it was initially there. But then if you're paying attention to what you're reading, you'll see that the focus switched from the Israelites as a whole. Like, you see all the Israelites in the Old Testament, but when you get to the New Testament, you're not looking at the Israelites. You're looking at the Jews, the tribe of Judah. They're called Jews. The tribe of Judah is called Jews. The tribe of Judah is called Jews. Not the Israelites. The Israelites is not Jews. The tribe of Judah is called Jews. And the tribe of the Samaritans was they were called Samaritans because of where they lived at. They lived in Samaria. And so because they lived in Samaria, they were called Samaritans. But those were the Israelites. Those were the other 10 tribes of Israelite. There was Gad, Asher, Dan, Issachar, Zebulun. Let's see, Gad, Asher, Dan, Issachar, Zebulun, Naphtali. I said Asher already, didn't I? Reuben, Simeon. The Levites don't count. Ephraim and Manasseh. And the Levites didn't count. They didn't count. Ephraim and Manasseh took the place of the Levites and of Joseph, because the Levites was set apart for God, but then they messed up too. And so this mantle of priesthood was transferred over to Judah so that they can, which is why Jesus is, again, I said it in one of the other videos, but it's why Jesus is of the order of Melchizedek, which means that he's both king and priest. Jesus is of the tribe of Judah, both king and priest. And that's why, like, when people today say, religion don't mix with politics, that's not true. That's not true. Because King Jesus is not only a priest, he's also king. All right, y'all. I think I'm done.